Something didn't go according to plan, and for whatever reason, you can't get back to your dive boat. How do you make sure that you don't get lost at sea? Well, divers carry a number of surface signaling devices for just this reason. Our little floating heads on a vast dark ocean is going to be very difficult to see, so we need to carry tools to ensure that we're going to be visible to rescue parties looking for us. But before we dive into our topic of signaling devices, let me introduce myself. My name is Larry from Channel Island Scuba. Whether you're thinking about starting your open water course or you're an experienced diver just looking to level up your knowledge base, we are the community of divers asking the same questions that you are, and hopefully we're finding the answers together. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much for checking us out, and a very special thank you to all of our returning divers. If the information we discuss on this video is of value to you, please like the video down below, and if you want some more, subscribe to our channel. Really does go a long way to help other divers find us, so hopefully we can add some value to their dives as well. All right, with that, let's dive back into our main topic of what signaling devices every single diver should carry. So before we start our discussion on signaling devices, I'd like to start off with telling you guys a story about a dive that happened to me a few years ago. This happened on a very famous dive site called the Wreck of the Benwood in the Florida Keys. If you're familiar with it, you'll know it to be an incredibly benign dive site. Max depth of about 25 to 30-ish feet, very rarely has adverse conditions like current, things like that. Expecting today to be no different than any other dive, spoiler alert, it wasn't, we chose to bring one of our paraplegic divers with us. Shout out to DiveHeart for all of our adaptive diver programs. Now, we do this, again, starting off pretty benign dive. About 20-ish minutes into the dive, like someone flipped a light switch, all of a sudden a ripping current comes through the dive site. We look to our paraplegic diver, recognize that they are not going to be able to continue to swim in this kind of a current, so we choose to abort our dive. Do a nice slow safe ascent, get back up to the surface, and now me and my dive buddy start towing the adaptive diver as hard as we can back to the dive boat. Except with the current as strong as it was, we were actively losing ground. At this point, the boat has a few options for us. First thing we're going to try and do is let out what's called the current line. Usually a 300 to 400 meter line with a large float on the end of it, something that we can grab onto and pull ourselves in hand over hand. Except this particular day, we drifted so fast on our dive that we were already outside the scope of that current line by the time we surfaced. And again, we were actively losing ground despite kicking as hard as we could back to the dive boat. So at this point, our only option is to have the dive boat come and pick us up. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention, this was a night dive. Yeah, so now it's also dark with all of this. So we signal to the dive boat with our flashlights. They recognize what's going on. They can see that it is us with the adaptive diver. They know we're not going to be able to make it back to the boat. So what the dive boat is going to do at this point is initiate something called the diver recall system. Typically, this is some kind of alarm or siren to let everyone on the dive site know that their dive is done. Time to come up and come back up to the dive boat. So they do that, but this process takes time. This particular day, it took them 45 minutes to get all 30 divers back on board. So while they're doing their diver recall, we decide we're going to stop kicking, we're going to save our energy, and we're just going to drift with the current. We all inflate our surface marker buoys, or SMB, which is a large inflatable tube that rolls up really nice and neat, stuff it into your pocket, and if you need it, you can take it out and inflate it, and now you're highly visible. For us on a night dive, we also were carrying flashlights, something you should also carry during the day because it is a good signaling device even during the day, but obviously much brighter at night. On a night dive, you can also hold it up to your SMB and it makes the whole thing glow very, very bright. So if anything, you might be more visible with a flashlight paired with an SMB at night versus an SMB alone during the day. Great tools to have. And that's exactly what we do. We light up our SMBs. The dive boat at this point can actually see us, although we can't see the dive boat. Now for us, about 40 to 50 minutes into our drift, we start hearing out from the distance very loud, very aggressive, help, help, help. Quite desperate yells for help. So we start yelling back to them, hey, come find us, come swim to us. They say, are you the weird orange glow stick? We're like, yes, we are the weird orange glow stick. Please come swim to us. We reconnect. We figured we were probably on the same dive boat, and in fact we were. Turns out they, of course, got caught in the same current that we did, but they didn't recognize it. They didn't realize that they were drifting in the current. They just continued their dive as normal, surfaced after the end of their dive, and they were now very far from where their dive site started. Luckily, we were caught in the same current. We were able to connect back with each other, and I got to lecture them for the next 20 minutes on why at least one of them should have been carrying an SMB. Ideally, every one of them, each diver individually. So the dive boat finally comes and picks us up. We all get back on board, and it turned out to be a relatively, mild evening. Now, yes, left us with a pretty cool story, but all in all, no one was hurt. Call it a win, right? Now, my big takeaway from that night was not what happened to me and my dive buddies. It really was those other divers on that same dive site. Because had we not gotten caught in that same current, they would have just been adrift without any form of signaling device at all. Who knows how long it would have been for them to get picked up. Now, yes, I do believe they would have been found. But late into the night, into the early morning, that's a realistic possibility. If you're drifting in the ocean for 6 to 8 hours, doesn't matter if it's 85-degree water, you can be looking at hypothermia or other exposure injuries. That's a very dangerous situation to be in. So for us, yes, it was a big near miss, and everyone was happy we all got to go home. But had things been different, those divers could have gotten very hurt. And very simple signaling devices that every single diver should carry is the difference between a near miss and a real incident. So again, SMBs, something every diver should have. I carry one or even two on a lot of the dives that I do. Whistles are also awesome. Audible signaling device, you can get someone's attention. They're very, very loud if you're getting a good P-less whistle. Flashlights, whether it's day or night, good signaling devices for us. But technology has also come a long way in even the last few years. GPS units have become better and less expensive and smaller for us to carry. I particularly like the Garmin InReach Mini 2. Very small unit and does have a satellite connection, so you can send an SOS to anywhere in the world. But recently, and this is within the last few months, the ability to be able to carry our cell phones in the water. Now, yes, that technology has been around for a little bit, but pair that with Starlink, you can actually now have Starlink straight to your phone. Take your cell phone with you while you're diving. Have Starlink already registered on there. And if in an emergency, you may be able to actually get a signal on your cell phone and call for help that way. Right? So yes, every diver should have an SMB and a whistle at a bare minimum. Flashlight is a bonus. But if you can afford to do a GPS device like a beacon or like your cell phone with a Starlink plan, that is just going to be way better for any kind of situation that you may come in. You can always call for help. Okay? So things definitely to add to your packing list for your next dive. All right, with that, I'm going to collect my thoughts, come back to you with a conclusion in just a second. So in conclusion, just kind of want to give you the fine points of that story I just said. So we ended up having a total drift time of about an hour and a half from when we first got to the surface till we were picked up by the boat. During that hour and a half, we drifted somewhere around 3 miles. It's been a few years since this happened, but I believe it was around 3 miles. So that's a pretty long drift. Now bear in mind, this is a pretty unusual story. Even within the professional community, this stuff really just doesn't happen very often. In fact, you are statistically far more likely to be affected by a natural disaster or get in a car accident than be a lost diver. It does go to show, though, that it can happen and that we do need to carry tools for us to manage these situations and plan ahead for it, right? Even just in your exposure protection, plan on wearing something in case you're in the water longer than you think you might be. Okay. So again, at a bare minimum, I think absolutely every diver needs to carry an SMB and a whistle. Not per dive team, right? What if you get separated from your buddy? You need to carry your own, right? And if you want to have an extra safety net, your GPS devices being far more accessible, they're much easier for every diver to carry as well. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What signaling devices do you personally carry on your dives? I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this, and let's start a conversation in the comments. I'm going to try my best to respond to all your comments when I can. If you do want to support what we're doing here at the channel, we do have a web store where you can find all of the signaling devices that we talked about today. I'm going to drop a link down below in the description. Check that out. Once again, I'm Larry from Channel Island Scuba. Thank you so much for watching. Safe and happy diving.